all in one turn. So he's
you got 10
investing a lot of mana, but he's recouping much of that mana with the Eldrazi spawn tokens, and he's scrying to whatever card or cards he thinks is going to be most important for him. So for example, if he makes 10 Eldrazi spawns and scries into a Karn the Great Creator, which I do see is available there, he's off to the races. He can just play Karn, get Mycosynth Lattice, and that could be all she wrote. Have you ever scried 10 before, Riley?
If I did, I didn't. It wasn't notable enough.
Kozilek's Command is a busted magic card. I hope many of you have come to this realization with me as well, because this card has low-key been defining what it means to be a colorless deck in any format that can play it. And today I wanted to cover that specifically in Modern and then also in Legacy, where I think it's gaining a lot more traction. Because in Modern you don't necessarily have as much free mana or broken stuff. I mean, Eye of Ugin is just not legal in the Modern format, so being an Eldrazi spell, things can be slightly more different, but I hope that kind of outlines why in a format where something like that is legal and a lot more free mana, Soul Land specifically, something like this can be absolutely insane. So we're going to break it down based on its abilities, its effect on the meta, and then also maybe refer back to the clip that you just watched from this recent Eternal weekend. But Kozilek's Command is colorless and colorless, so that's going to come into a key later on. For an X spell, Kindred Instant Eldrazi. Choose to. Target player creates X01 Eldrazi spawn creature tokens with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless mana back. Now in colorless decks, this can almost be like this mode gives you back your mana. So you play colorless, and whatever X is, you pretty much get that X back in Eldrazi spawn tokens. So always think about that. Like this card like really only costs 2. Obviously you need to put more mana into it, but you get that back. So this is one of its most common modes, and why, as you saw in that clip, this card can be really insanely busted. Target player scries X, then draws a card. So this is a big setup, especially based on how much you can put into X, because this is an instant at the end of your opponent's turn. If you can get this up, you can set yourself up for a crazy amount, especially if you have some draw spells. Exile target creature with mana value X or less. So there's a removal spell stapled on this. It's a draw setup spell. It's a ramp spell. It's a removal spell. And guess what, folks? Exile up to X target cards from our graveyard. It's a graveyard hate spell in the main board, folks. Dredge and graveyards will never see the light of day. Faithless Looting will never be unbanned again, but we got endurance and cards like this in the main board. To be fair, this card is probably too slow for what Faithless Looting can turn into it, but you understand what I'm saying. Okay, you're understanding what I'm saying. This card does so much. Removal, ramp, graveyard hate, card draw, and the ramp is important because it's not about getting your mana back. Like at the end of your turn, you can set yourself up, right? You can, at the end of your maybe 4 mana turn, you got 4 mana to you, end of your opponent's turn, cast this for 4, you gain 2 Scion tokens, untap, put a land down, you're at 5, plus the 2 Scion, you're at 7. That's big. That's a big difference. You do that on your 5 mana turn, you untap, play a land, you're at 6, plus the 3 you had from the turn before, you're at 9 mana, right? It's so much more. It's like a compounding effect. And that's the thing, like, this is almost always that mode that it picks, because what are the other options, right? Let's think about the other options that exist specifically in the modern format. There isn't any when it comes to ramp. The Tron decks weren't playing any spell like this because a spell like this did not exist beforehand. Nothing close to its power. So it would work towards getting setting up Tron, what Pauper Tron does as well, just getting this out naturally, or setting this up with some type of colorless egg into a map and whatever. Like, it can do that as well, but it didn't have a spell that did that. What about its next mode? What about its card draw? I mean, no, the deck did not draw cards well. You had the eggs, and sometimes, more recently you had the One Ring, but historically it's been Karn the Great Creator. Modern Tron and Eldrazi variants have turned into a tutor machine. You don't really sideboard. You got like 1 to 2 sideboard pieces. You bring them in a specific matchup. Other than that, you work towards Karn the Great Creator, and you play more main board options. You play Relic of Progenitus against a time when Mill was really good, because when you had, I'm forgetting the name of it, I'm so bad at this, the 6 mana artifact that combo with Karn the Great Creator to shut off all mana. Someone in the comments will let me know. But when that was around, mill was actually really good. So when Surgical Extraction and Faithless Looting were still around, mill players would play Surgical Extraction, you play Relic of Progenitus in the main board, and Relic would be able to stop interaction like that, but also it was around because it could stop the Phoenix deck. So anyway, there's a whole lot of things happening in an era like that. But it was really Karn the Great Creator. It's not about drawing cards. Forget drawing cards. You can just tutor for the card that you need. But now the deck is able to do both. It can draw for the card it needs and tutor for the card that it needs after the fact with Karn the Great Creator. Next mode, exile target creature with mana value X or less. Exile, very relevant. In a world of reanimation, exile is very relevant, especially when it comes to the legacy format, more so with the amount of reanimation that exists in that format. Obviously, a lot of reanimation targets that exist in that format, the bigger ones, you need a big X, but that's not very hard to do in a format like that. And so you have that mana value X targeting things that really something like Dismember could never really handle. That was the problem, right? Like if your opponent was playing like a Magus of the Moon or something like that to stop your Tron lands, Dismember was your only option. And Dismember wasn't a bad one. It was 1 mana removal. It was 1 mana destroy most hate pieces in the modern format. But that was the option. You had to take 4 damage for that. There's just better things. The Tron deck doesn't need to be playing Dismember anymore when you got something like Kozilek's Command. In the last mode, exile up to X target graveyards, Relic of Progenitus just being the most common option that existed at the time for a very long time. Against the mill decks, it would protect against Surgical. In a pinch, you could play this on turn 1. Then on turn 2, you could have, always have that 1 mana open to exile all graveyards. Generally speaking, you didn't need yours, and exiling everything was actually a benefit, because if we kind of pull back to Karn the Great Creator, always remember, folks, this is a mode of Karn the Great Creator that a lot of people forget. Very relevant for me as a mill player when it comes to surgicaling things. Until the end of your, -2, you may reveal an artifact you own from outside the game, so your sideboard, or choose a face-up artifact you control in exile. So it actually benefited you to play Relic of Progenitus. Where is it? I'm going so far right now. Relic of Progenitus, exile Relic of Progenitus, so you could get this back with Karn the Great Creator if you needed it again. Then exile all cards in your graveyard, your future artifacts. Relic of Progenitus worked really well. But now you just have the ability to not need this because you can choose more, because Relic of Progenitus would answer all. It says, okay, clear the way, the dredge deck doesn't beat me, let me draw a card and see what I can do. No, Kozilek's Command says, let me do all of that. Let me exile the specific cards in your graveyard because I don't need to hit all of that. And I actually have cards on my side that I don't even want to exile anymore. So I want those in my graveyard. And while I'm exiling your graveyard, I'm also going to make my mana back. While I'm exiling your graveyard, I'm also going to scry and draw a card. While I'm exiling your graveyard, I'm also going to hit your hate piece. So now my Tron lands are back online. Folks, Kozilek's Command is a busted Magic card. Let's break it down for a metagame perspective. So when it comes to the modern metagame, let's break it down in the best deck that uses it. There's 2 decks right now. There's Eldrazi Ramp and Eldrazi Tron. I think Ramp does this the best, and it highlights most of the aspects pretty well. So again, a playset copy of a card that removes, ramps, draws cards, and exiles graveyards. Great. So you got a catch all. Not only can you, if you played Kozilek's Command for, imagine this. You played Kozilek's Command for 6 mana. That's not that hard. By the way, in Eldrazi Ramp, you could get to that. I think mathematically as early as like turn 2, like you go Breeding Pool into Utopia Sprawl. Next turn you go land, play Talisman, you untap to 4, and then I don't know, you play like you had an Ugin's Labyrinth in there somewhere, like you're at 6 mana, right? Obviously the nuts, bear with me here. You Kozilek's Command for 6, colorless, and that's where you need the Ugin's Labyrinth because you need to be able to add colorless. But then you add mana, and then you scry and draw, right? You're behind. But then you say, I'm going to add 4 mana, and then I'm going to scry and draw. I'm going to look at the top 4 cards of my deck. I'm going to find a 1 ring. I'm going to put that card on top. I'm going to draw the 1 ring. Then with the mana that I made back, I'm going to play the 1 ring, give myself protection, draw 3 cards by the time I loop back to my next main phase and set myself up, because those 4 cards that I scried, I could draw those as well in the order that I want, or I could scry select ones to the bottom and to the top and draw what I need and not draw what I don't need. Kozilek's Command is absolutely insane in terms of what it's able to do. And alongside not removing graveyards, the other key piece that matters when it comes to not playing Relic of Progenitus in the main board of your decks is something like Worldbreaker. World Breaker, you are able to return from your graveyard to your hand. When you cast this spell, exile a target artifact, which is highly relevant in a World of the One Ring. Exile target enchantment, which could be relevant in, I don't know, Blood Moon matchups. And then exile target land. There is plenty of situations where you want to exile an opposing Tron player's land, a one of duel that your opponent is not able to kind of fetch back up because they're struggling a little bit. World Breaker does everything, and it's a card that you want to get back. So you don't want to exile all graveyards at all. Kozilek's Command works alongside with the current iteration of Tron right now. It works with some of the current tools, but a lot of this is just tools that we haven't had before. I mean, World Breaker has been around before, but Sowing Microspawn is a Modern Horizons 3 card. Kozilek's Command is a Modern Horizons 3 card. Malevolent Rumble is a Modern Horizons 3 card. Like, the One Ring might as well be a goddamn Modern Horizons 3 card. Ugin's Labyrinth is a Modern Horizons 3 card. Like, we didn't have soul lands before Ugin's Labyrinth in the modern form. Not in this way. Not in this way at all. Folks, there's so many reasons why you can abuse stuff like this. Kozilek's Return just as like a free, like free board wipes. Free board wipes. Yes, you don't get it off Sowing Microspawn, but you get it off the World Breaker, you get it off the Embercool, the Promised Land. You can turn your opponent's turns into the most suboptimal thing in the world, and then you're off to the goddamn races. Now, when it comes to the modern format, you have so many things that you can hate out, right? Like, for example, if your opponent like gets all the way to the end of their deck, there is that niche case where you can throw it at them. Target player draws a card, and so you can beat them that way. Ruby Storm, you can hate out their graveyards in response to, you know, the Past in Flames, Dimir Murktide. You know, CMC based removal is even more relevant than ever versus damage based, especially with something like Psychic Frog. For something like Boros Energy, you can exile certain things, which is really relevant against something like Ajani if you're not exiling the Ajani specifically because it's creatures, not permanents. If Kozilek's Command could exile X target permanent, it would probably be banned already. It would probably be pre-banned. That card would be too powerful if it could interact with any permanent non-land permanent. So it does a lot. It does a lot. And it's able to ramp you. It's able to set you up. It's able to exile creatures. It's able to exile graveyards. Highly relevant in a metagame full of graveyard, quote unquote, graveyard based combos. Grinding Station, Ruby Storm, Living End. I mean, your opponent goes to Living End, Kozilek's Command it. Like, again, a lot of powerful stuff. Even Goryo's Vengeance. Like, chances are there's something in the graveyard that you want to hit. Chances are there's something that you need to steal. Chances are there's something you need to stop when it comes to your opponent in the modern metagame. Now, when it comes to something like Legacy, there's two ways that we can approach this, especially in a format where graveyards are even more relevant, where ramp is even better. Let's take a first look at the Eldrazi Stompy deck. Now, very similar in its use cases when it comes to in comparison to modern Eldrazi Tron. The problem is this deck is just more efficient. Now, the thing is you have cards like Eye of Ugin, legal in this format. Eldrazi spells cost 2 less. So immediately what that means is on turn two, you Eye of Ugin. Let's say you Eye of Ugin twice. You go, oh, you can't Eye of Ugin twice. Sorry, I'm being dumb. You Eye of Ugin once, and then you got an Eldrazi Temple out, right? That's what I'm going for. Eldrazi spell. Folks, it's so... You can then go Eldrazi Temple, right? Tap it to cast a colorless Eldrazi, right? Then so you pay for the colorless of Kozilek's Command, right? Then your Eye of Ugin makes it so it costs less. So you can then cast this for 2. X equals 2. You can make X equals 2. Insane, because then you can not only in Legacy kill a 2 CMC creature, which is Psychic Frog, Orcish Bowmasters, whatever it might be. Not only is that relevant, but you can ramp yourself up by 2. You can look at the top 2 and set yourself up. You can exile 2 cards from my graveyard, which again can be very relevant in a format where things are hyper fast like this. You have Lotus Petals in here. You have Chalice of the Voids coming out. Like, you have so much hate. Ancient Tomb, Cavern of Souls give you colorless. You notably cannot use the colored side of it for it. You need to specifically tap it for the colorless, but then it gives your colorless Eldrazi spells uncounterable. Eldrazi Temple, Eye of Ugin. Then what happens is Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth gives something like the Eye of Ugin the ability to tap for colored mana. Like, folks, this card does so goddamn much. This card does so much in these formats. It is absolutely insane. And I look at the rest of this, again, to highlight a point that I've been talking about in multiple videos, and I think many of you are already aware of. Where is it? Modern Horizons 3. Modern Horizons 3, common. Oh, not too bad, common. Oh, Modern Horizons 3 uncommon. Oh, okay. Silo design? Silo design. Oh, Modern Horizons 3 rare. We completed the whole damn thing. Common, uncommon, rare. It's so... The Modern Horizons 3 Eldrazi spells are so powerful. We got them through the whole gamut. The whole mix. The commons, uncommons, and rares. Working alongside Kozilek's command. Devourer of Destiny helping your mulligans. Territorial Color, Null Drifter. This is just every single colorless card in Modern Horizons 3 put into a goddamn deck alongside one of the most busted Eldrazi spells ever printed. Alongside once upon a time banned in Modern, Chalice of the Void. Not banned in Modern, sucks in Modern because you can't Chalice on one on turn one efficiently, but in the Modern or in the Legacy format, Ancient Tomb allows you to do that. Folks, I don't know what they were thinking when it came to Kozilek's command. This card probably shouldn't be banned in Modern. It may eventually need to be, but for now it doesn't need to be. But it's on people's radar to be banned in Legacy. This card is absolutely insane when it also comes to the source for this video. The clip that you saw at the beginning of the video with Mystic Forge combo, where the winner of Eternal Weekend, absolutely insane sequence, by the way. It was Soul Land into freaking, where was it? It was eventually 2 Manifold Keys. But yeah, it was 2 Grim Monoliths. 2 Grim Monoliths, Soul Land. They played another Soul Land out. Then what they did, Scry 10. Oh my god. Kozilek's command for 12. Imagine Kozilek's command where you scry 10 and get back 10 mana. You spend 12 mana, get back 10, scry the top 10 cards of your deck, set it up so perfectly to the point where you, Karn the Great Creator, can tutor for your combo piece, and you know effectively, you paid 4 mana, you look at the top 10 cards, you know what the next probable 4 to 5 cards are in your deck, and you're able to combo off from there with Mystic Forge, with Paradox Engine, with everything else in this deck. You're able to then win from there with Karn the Great Creator and just whatever you need to bring out of the sideboard. It's probably going to be a giant walking ballista, to be honest, or a Mycosynth Lattice to shut your opponent out. Because if you're at 10, you can just go Karn the Great Creator, grab Mycosynth Lattice, tutor for it, and play it, slam it. Fam, you spent 12 mana to set yourself up perfectly, by the way. Look at the top 10 cards of your deck, get that mana back. Yes, spending 12 mana should mean you win the game. Right, I get that. Before all of you YouTube commenters tell me spending 12 mana shouldn't get you to... I get it should win you the game. But it shouldn't give you the option to do everything else. Okay, when Omniscience enters the battlefield, does it exile your hand? Your opponent's hand? Right, when Coalition Victory comes out, should be unbanned in Commander, by the way. Doesn't it require all these conditions to even win the game? Why does Kozilek's command get to cast for that much and still have options? Why do you get to then use that 12 mana for something else if you needed to? Chances are you're using Kozilek's command to use, get your mana back and then choose one of the other modes. Set yourself up for the next turn, exile the graveyard. Set yourself up for the next turn while taking out the hate piece, like the Collector Oof or whatever it might be. That's what Kozilek's command does. It does everything and anything, and it does that with the clip that you just saw. The last section, I'm going to just kind of go over some closing thoughts and some counterplay. The big thing that I want to highlight is that because it's colorless, one of the primary ways that you can fight against this deck is by playing Blood Moon, which is why Mono Red Stompy is really good in Legacy right now. 4 Blood Moons across the main. You just want to be able to stop kind of spells like this. Wasteland is really powerful right now. And it's also why Modern Horizons 3 staple counterspell for 1 blue. Where is it? God, I'm forgetting the name of this. Consign to Memory. There it is. As I was clicking this, I remember this. Consign to Memory. Modern Horizons staple, counter target colorless spell, triggered ability, Consign to Memory. You can stop it there. Giant Consign to Memory, great. You can replicate it twice. That way, if they counter one, the other one goes through. If they have Chalice out on one, you replicate twice. They can't counter the replicate copy. They counter the original. It's all there. Modern Horizons 3 cards being stopped by Modern Horizons 3 cards, or Modern Horizons 3 cards being stopped, not even Modern Horizons 3 cards, decks being stopped by Blood Moon, which is nothing new. land decks being stopped, land-based strategies. This Eldrazi decks are land-based strategies being stopped by Blood Moon, not a surprise. But of course, the Modern Horizons 3 card is being stopped by the Modern Horizons 3 card, because you can't stop it any other way efficiently. Ain't nobody playing Spell Pierce, right? Nobody's playing what's counter target instant spell, right? Ain't nobody playing all that, right? You can Flusterstorm this, that's fair too, but ain't nobody playing Flusterstorm right now, right? You're like, this card, like, the more you think about it, and especially as someone who's getting into the Legacy format, this card is bonkers. It's nuts. It's nutso what this card does. And I think Modern is still, as I mentioned, for various reasons, far from this being busted there. I think it's a really good piece there, and it gives the Eldrazi decks legs, and the Eldrazi decks are nowhere near the top of the metagame right now. But who knows? Because Modern probably requires a couple of bans. It's not just a One Ring. It's something out of energy, and it probably needs to be Psychic Frog too. Psychic Frog is a dumb Magic card, and my fear is that it will not be banned in December because Modern Horizons 3 still hasn't finished selling out. Psychic Frog needs to be banned everywhere. It is the second most played card in Vintage and Legacy. I don't care what angles there are in Modern. If it's being played and abused in the most powerful Eternal formats in Magic, maybe we should look at it in every other format it's legal in. This isn't a case like, you know, friggin', what's that 7-mana spell? It's 7-in-1, delve, draw 3 cards. Like, it's not like that card, Treasure Cruise in Pioneer. Pioneer doesn't have fetch lands. That's why that format sucks to me. I don't want to play Pioneer because I think fetch land list gameplay sucks unless it's Pioneer, unless it's Pauper, where you get to play with artifact lands. That's my personal opinion. I'm not trying to, if you love Pioneer, go for it. But I think the format goddamn sucks without fetch lands. I don't like fetchless mana bases, which is why Treasure Cruise is not good in that format. It's a busted spell. Arguably it is. Again, it's a bunch of powerful pieces that don't have the support for them because fetch lands aren't there. Pioneer is a bastion without fetch lands. Fair enough. Keep them there. Kozilek's Command in these Eternal formats with fetch lands, being able to do busted things, is still doing insane things. It's able to stop the Psychic Frogs of the format, but Psychic Frog probably also needs to be banned. So let's ban Psychic Frog, let's ban Kozilek's Command, and let's stop with this Modern Horizons 3 design that's destroying all of our formats. Every single day, I feel like I gotta make a new video on a new card that's breaking the format, and when you look at its damn print symbol, Modern Horizons 3 is there. Why? Why is this card breaking every format? Why is every single rare, common, and uncommon breaking the formats it's in with this siloed design? Why don't these cards work in tandem with other Eldrazi spells to bring about other sets, other past, like the energy cards that exist in Modern aren't good with the previous energy cards. The current Eldrazi cards aren't really good with previous Eldrazi cards. They are with some of them. But the base has essentially all turned into, especially in Legacy, Modern Horizons 3 Eldrazi. Why are we doing that?